What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about the Stellar Blade demo. So the entire thing is actually on my channel as a live stream if you want to check it out. Kind of my initial thoughts or while playing it, but sitting here about a day later, I kind of want to talk about the positives and negatives to it. Now, overwhelmingly, it's a positive, and I think this demo is almost exactly what it needs to be. There's a few things, to maybe get a little worried about or just to kind of highlight, but overall, I loved it. I thought it was a lot of fun. I think the combat was the standout, which is something we've talked about, right, leading into the demo. I think it's going to surprise people. It might surprise people because of the difficulty. I've seen some people online talk about, the gameplay looks too slow, like they need to speed it up. I disagree. I mean, it is slower, but I think it's on purpose. I think maybe people just kind of had the wrong idea of how fast it was going to be. But let's kind of go through, the positives and negatives. And maybe we'll start with the negatives just because there's only a couple of them. The voice acting. The voice acting is definitely something to be concerned about. Eve herself is not bad, but if I was like grading it, right? Now, I don't do scores, but let's just say like bad, average, good, like those kind of things. Overall, Eve is probably like an average, and I'm talking about the English, right? Average. The rest of them, I would arguably say is below average. I've heard that the Korean speakers, right, they kind of put more, effort or like oomph in their words. So it's something that, I might play the demo again before the game comes out, or maybe when the game comes out, I'll just replay the beginning, play it with Korean, and then see kind of how it sounds, right? That's kind of what I'm thinking, just because, I don't know, it wasn't all there. It definitely, I think, was the lowest point of the game. And then, honestly, beyond that, like the story, I think the story is solid. There's definitely a whole lot more they need to do with it, but like the demo is the first hour, right? So it's hard to really grade, how's the story? Well, I think it's a good opener. I think the opening of this game is phenomenal, but there's a lot more to come. This game is supposed to be a close to like 20-hour game they've talked about, right? Like the length. So there is much more to the story. There's much more to the characters. Some characters we haven't even met yet that we've seen, say, in trailers. So there's a lot more that's coming. Why judge it? We can a little bit. And again, I think it's a good, solid foundation. I think it's interesting, this idea of kind of being the last of your kind, right? Coming down. I think it's a very solid basis, but of course there's more to it. I'd say maybe only one other negative to it would be some of the combat in terms of like knocking you out of things. So what I mean by this, I overwhelmingly love the combat. It's challenging. It's not the hardest thing I've ever played in my life, right? Like the Sekiros of the world, I believe, are very much harder than this game. I have seen people say the opposite, but I suck at those, and I've constantly said that in videos throughout my time on YouTube. I'm just really bad at them. I can never really get good, but every so often a Rise of the Ronin comes out. I think I'm actually kind of decent at Rise of the Ronin. Stellar Blade kind of reminds me a little bit of Rise of the Ronin, a little Jedi Survivor Fallen Order action in there. It's got a couple different combat systems kind of blended into one. It is challenging. It's something you have to think about, but it's not the hardest thing I've ever played. But to my one negative, and then we'll talk about the positive of it, the negative is, so sometimes you'll be doing moves, and this happened to me in the live stream. I was doing almost like a juggling move. I think maybe if you press triangle twice, you get to it. I don't exactly know how I would get to it, but there's an opportunity there. There's a time where, say, there's unblockable moves. And if there's an unblockable move when you're in the middle of something, you're screwed. You're screwed. You're not going to be able to. There's like the blink ability, right? So when your sword lights up blue, when the circle lights up blue of the enemy, you press the button and you shoot behind them and you do like a counter move. I love it. That's a great system. I use that in the boss. I really like it. But sometimes it feels like almost maybe it's a second behind, or I guess it could be both of them. When you're in the middle of something, it doesn't react. There was plenty of times where I was attacking and I wanted to stop to block or parry or blink or whatever, and it wouldn't do it because I was in the middle of something. And instead, you're going to take damage. And sometimes you might take a lot of damage. So, what that means, at least to me, is I have to be more careful with what I'm doing. And that's fine. There could very well be other games that do it. People might have no problems with it. I don't think it's the biggest deal. It's something I wanted to shout out in this video, of course. I think my takeaway from it was, it is more strategic. It is a little bit slower than you want it to be. To just go in and hack and slash and just do some combinations of squares and triangles, right? You have to kind of place your movements, place your attacks, because if you attack at the wrong time, it's not just about parrying at the right time or blinking at the right time. It's also, are you ready to parry at the right time? Are you ready to, does that make sense? Hopefully, there's that extra level that I didn't anticipate going in, and it took some time to get used to it. I don't think it's game breaking. I don't think it makes me not like it. It's just something that when I play the full game, I'm gonna have to remember. It's not just about being too aggressive, and it's not just about perfect parrying. It's about you have to be ready to parry, so you can't be in the middle of an attack. Unless maybe there's an ability that allows you to not do that, which is possible, and we just maybe didn't unlock that ability yet. But early on in the game, you do not have that ability, right? So that's something, I guess, just to keep in mind. The rest of it's positives. So the visuals are stunning, like really, really good. The character models, I talked about the opening. I mean, the game looks visually awesome. And I point out the water in the live stream. I actually think the water, number one, looks really good, but the water physics when Eve is swimming, number one, great form. Her form of swimming is amazing. But number two, like just how it reacts to her is really, and I'm a big water guy. I've talked about that in past videos, but I'm a sucker for it. So I think they did a really good job there. But just visuals in general, I think was really good. Music, same thing. I'm so used to Final Fantasy, and it's, amazing, I'd say, overall soundtrack, but even like its fighting theme, right? This game has, from what I could tell, kind of two primary ones. So there's like a nice piano riff that's going on when you're just standing there or exploring and, it's playing in the background. Really nice. Then there's the combat, theme or music, and I like that as well. I also really didn't mind, and I would say maybe a net positive, the exploration. Like another good thing I think that came out of this demo is like, how is this game gonna work? It's somewhat linear, right? Like there's kind of a marker that tells you where to go, but there's roads you can take, right? You can kind of hang a left, and maybe you'll have to take out a few enemies, but there might be a chest at the end of it with something that you might want, right? So it's somewhat open, but it's still kind of constricted. There's paths to like climb up that you might miss. I like it. I like it. It's not overly complicated. It feels very much like similar games, right? Like they put it in there to kind of push this exploration kind of thing. It's not fully necessary. It's not like the most amazing thing of all time, but it's there and it's functioning, right? So I think all that was good. And then, like I said, I mean, the combat is really the last thing. The combat is just really, really fun. There are, again, some things you have to pay attention to, but I really liked the feel. I really liked the abilities, how you can slot them to like square, triangle, circle, X. I think they were all very, very good. When I did the boss at the unlockable boss at the end, I didn't know what any of those things do, so it was kind of trial and error. I didn't look at menus and stuff, which I probably should have, but no, it was a blast. I mean, overall, this demo was a blast. I love that they did it. I love that they have that confidence and that it moves into the base game where you can skip now the first hour basically of the base game. I like it when games do that. But overall, this demo was what I wanted it to be. I already was sold on the visuals. The story was always going to be 50-50. Either they nail it or they don't, right? But for me, it was always the combat. The combat looks good. We've heard great things about the combat. Let me feel it. Let me like literally experience it so I can tell if it's going to be, maybe it's too challenging. Now, I play on normal. I didn't even play it on story mode, and it was challenging, but I did it. I beat it. I died a few times. The end, the unlockable boss, I think I died like 6 or 7 times, but it was a good challenge, and I never felt like I was too far away. And I think that's the balance these kind of games look for, right? You don't want to be pummeled where you don't understand why you died. You want it to be a challenge where you can kind of figure it out. And the systems are good enough where they're enjoyable. They're fun to actually go back and try the boss again. I think this game has that. I really do. So I think specifically combat, I really think this game might stand out from even people that aren't paying attention. People that are into that stuff might get the base game, right, when it comes out, and maybe they're not thinking about it now. So we'll continue to talk about this game, closer to release as we go, but let me know what you think in the comments. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, bell icon turned on. I hope to see you all on the next one.